competent ufologists. Bob Lazar worked at the Nevada facility by Groom Lake and was involved in reverse engineering program. His job was to work on the reactor, on a particular saucer, and the reactor was a antimatter reactor. In order to function, it required a piece of exotic matter. It's called element 115. The Russians have been able to synthesize it, but we don't have a stable isotope. But this craft, it used a stable form of element 115. And this exotic matter was essential to the operation of the craft. It was a matter-antimatter reaction, one of the largest explosions that we know of, and it's generating an enormous amount of energy that's required to generate and to control gravity waves. The interior of the craft was designed for diminutive people, who referred to as the kids. We're talking about gray aliens. This is the purpose of the zodiac, is not to figure out what your sign is and what sort of attributes that means for you this month.
You don't read your horoscope?
No, it's meaningless. The zodiac has a much more profound meaning that we've forgotten, but that the ancients were well aware of. And this is why you find the zodiac represented everywhere, all over the earth, and it's the same 12 signs. The primary function is to calculate cyclic cataclysm. And this is based on axial precession, the precession of the equinox, and the fact that the earth is tilted on a 23-degree angle, and the position of the stars seems to change from our perspective over time. And you have 3 houses of the zodiac. This is what the Greeks referred to as an aeon. And when you transition from one aeon to the next, it's cataclysmic. And they knew it because it's cyclic, like clockwork. And every primary ancient civilization on Earth has a record of cataclysm because these cataclysms brought to ruin the old world.
What are your thoughts on the flood in the Bible?
You have the traditional narrative that every square inch of planet Earth was covered in water, and the flood was universal in that sense. Then you have a lot of scholars who subscribe to a local flood theory, that the flood was localized to the ancient Near East. Maybe the Mediterranean Sea is what flooded the known world at the time. And the support for their theory comes from the text. They use the same words in the Bible, and they derive a different meaning. And then there's a theory 12,000 years ago, during the end of the last ice age, there was a cataclysmic impact on the North American ice sheets, and that the ice sheet was bombarded by these celestial objects that catalyzed a cataclysm of unprecedented magnitude that would have resulted in catastrophic flooding, mile-high tidal waves, extreme volcanism.
Have you looked at this underground city in Turkey?
It's a very sophisticated system of tunnels. For whatever reason, those people decided that they needed to live underground. Today, many of the billionaires are building underground bunkers because there is a body out there in the solar system that's on this path around the sun that gets slingshotted back into outer space.
But that they have access to all this ancient knowledge.
They have these mystery schools.
The mystery schools.
The function of the mystery school is to preserve the knowledge that was transmitted to mankind by the gods who descended in the Golden Age. And there's various mystery schools around the world. The Elysian mysteries, the ancient Greek mysteries, you had the Egyptian mysteries, but then you had Illuminati. That would be a term that encompasses them all. And that is functional knowledge that is transmitted through myths. What we today look at as bedtime stories. But the myths were designed to transmit information. Back in the 70s, the Rand Corporation published a paper describing a magneto-leviton train that could be installed either on the surface or underground, and that would operate in a vacuum tube. And it didn't run on a rail, rather it was using the electromagnetic force, and it was basically floating 3/4 of an inch off of the rail because of the magnetic influence. And they said that they could go coast to coast in half an hour or 40 minutes. In that paper, they say that they now have the technology to build it. So I think they did. They just didn't build it for the public. They took the technology underground. And now the Japanese and the Chinese are developing these kind of railways. They're using the same kind of technology, bullet trains and different kinds of rail systems that are being developed. So the secret would be